Today on the podcast, we return back to Christian Gay. Today on the podcast, let's try that again. Today on the
Great start.
podcast, hello and welcome to Caged In Presents Coppola Connections, brought to you as ever by the Breadcrumbs Collective and hosted by me, Petros Patsilivus. So, we've made it to the end of the year, guys. This is episode 28 of this new adventure on the podcast. So before we get into it and do some little thank yous for the end of the year. If this is your first time with the podcast, what we do here is we watch every single film in the collective Coppola family filmography to determine, are they the greatest film family of all time? So if you're all caught up to speed, yeah, we've made it to the end of the year, and it's kind of amazing to if you're here for just the Coppola connections, or if you've been a long time listener and you've moved on over to this new journey. I thank you so much. It always means so much to me that people listen to this. So yeah, we thought for this episode, seeing as it is the final one of the year, and we're in that weird period right now between Christmas and New Year. Oh yeah, hope you had a good Christmas. Was it good? Did you get all the presents you wanted? Well, here's a present for you, because we're talking about 50 Shades Darker. 2021 has been a weird and often bad year, so we thought we'd wallow in the misery of it all and talk about 50 Shades Darker. I'm joined once again by Charlie Vero-Martin to talk about this one, and it's a very, very fun episode as we kind of descend into madness talking about this film. As always, the regular spoiler warnings do apply. So with all of that out of the way, all that's left to do is return to the Red Room as we make some Coppola connections. Today on the podcast, we return back to Christian Grey's playroom for more torture and very little pleasure as we look at 2017's erotic drama sequel to the worldwide hit 50 Shades of Grey with 50 Shades Darker. Directed by James Foley, written by Niall Leonard, starring Dakota Johnson, Jamie Dornan, Eric Johnson, Rita Ora, and Kim Basinger. The film cinematographer this week is a Coppola connection and is John Schwartzman, baby. Joining me this week to find out if this film is all pain or has an ounce of pleasure is return guest and my go-to host for all things 50 Shades, comedian, actor and writer Charlie Vero-Martin. How are you, Charlie?
Hello, I'm well. Thank you for having me back.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for joining me. I wanted to know, since you've watched since watching the first 50 Shades film, how has it kind of like is it stayed with you at all, or has it kind of like left your brain entirely?
No, I think it stayed with me a bit. I think it was just every now and then I would just remember things from it that annoyed me. So nothing exciting or tittillating. And of course, all of that came flooding back watching the second one.
Well, yeah. I'm not sure how you felt about it, but I definitely had this thing, like knowing it was coming up to watch it, even though I hated the first one. It was like that thing of like having like a blister or like a spot or something. It's like, I know I shouldn't, but I kind of really want to like watch the second one. Like
Oh yeah.
I had that feeling of like the reason I don't watch trash TV is like, I know I will just like gaze at the car crash in front of me and be like, oh, I hate it, but I love it at the same time. There's like this morbid curiosity to it. And that's exactly how I felt when it came to I don't know. I kind of want to watch after watching the second one. I'm saving it when we record the third episode, but I'm just like, oh, kind of want to watch the third one now. But
Oh.
before we get too deep into talking about 50 Shades, obviously this film has a Coppola connection, and I wanted to ask you your
Ah.
Coppola credentials and like when did you first become
Oh.
aware of the Coppola family as like a kind of entity? Was there an entry point? Was there a person in the family you became aware of first?
I'm not sure because I feel like I was always aware of things like The Godfather and stuff, um, in school and growing up. And then when I went to uni, so in Scotland you do an MA for 4 years, and you take three subjects. So one of them I did was film studies. So in my first year, it felt like very much we were watching everything from the and the first essay I had to write was about The Conversation,
Amazing.
which is a great film. And that kind of I think was one of the first films that I hadn't heard of or seen that I actually had to really, really watch in a lot of detail that I was like, ooh. um so yeah, I think and then yeah, but prior to that there was like Lost in Translation, all these things. But I guess in terms of like thinking about it as like a an entity, I would say maybe first year film studies.
Great. Yeah, that feels like that. Yeah, they feel like a family who can't be missed, right? When kind of looking at
Yeah.
especially Francis Ford Coppola and what he's done for modern cinema. So, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. You move and shake in London. Have you ever met a Coppola, Charlie? Have you ever bumped into a Coppola when you're out and
I
about?
actually went to school with a Coppola.
No.
Um, yeah, I went to primary school with Ivana Coppola, who's in no way related to the Coppola family. I got you there. I got you.
Hey,
Um,
we'll have that on this podcast. Maybe I should talk to her.
yeah, she. I mean, I'm from Edinburgh, and I went to Catholic school, so I have a lot of Italian friends,
Yep.
and I also speak Italian. So I do know Coppolas, but none of them are famous.
They're probably related somewhere down the line, right? There's got to
Oh,
be.
surely cousins of cousins of cousins.
Yeah,
We'll
that
go with that.
yeah. I don't
Um,
wanna have to amend my family tree I've created for the Coppola family because it's big enough as it is, just the ones who work in film, let alone poor Ivana from Scotland.
yeah, she works in last I saw her, she worked in the underwear department of M&S.
Wa
So,
Wow, so very
yeah,
very fitting for the film we're gonna be talking about today, maybe.
exactly.
Yeah, maybe Ivana was a fan of 50 Shades Darker. Uh, Maybe she knows whether it is a good idea to take off your pants at a fancy restaurant and give them to your
Oh
partner
my
to put in his
god.
pocket.
I'd actually forgotten that bit of the film. As just saying, I like watched this on Saturday, and I feel like that feels so long ago. And looking at my notes, I'm like, what? I'm really wishing I'd watched it again right now, but oh well, we'll see how this goes.
I'm sure I'll be able to dislodge some dark memories of this film from your brain as we discuss it. So, this is a bit of a weird one, like, when it comes to cinematographers, unless they're kind of like a Roger Deakins, you don't tend to look out for them, like film fans or just
Yeah,
like, yeah, just I don't know. Yeah. Just the general person watching films don't go, "Ooh, that cinematographer is a bit of my fancy," but do you know what would have been the first John Schwartzman film you would have seen?
oh God, no. I probably again. I should do more research before I come up with these things. What are some of his previous
So, he would have done, like,
uh past,
The Rock, Armageddon, Pearl Harbor,
uh
Seabiscuit. He's kind of got this really crazy career, and he's probably one of the more fascinating ones to talk about on this podcast because there is so many, like, he's worked in so many different things. He'll do, like, as I said, Armageddon, but he's also done Last Christmas from 2019. He did The Amazing
Meet the
Spider-Man from
Fockers?
2012. So yeah, he's all over the place.
He's all over the place. I'm sure it would be fascinating to talk to someone who actually knows about him. Um, I suppose maybe The Amazing Spider-Man might have been
Okay.
my first. No, because
That's
that's not the early
2012.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Oh, he did Highwayman. I liked Highwayman
Yeah.
and Saving Mr. Banks. Okay. Oh, I have seen a lot of his films. Armageddon, obviously saw way back in the day. Was it you that put on Twitter recently or something the clip of the
Ben
behind the
Affleck.
scenes Ben
Yeah.
Affleck roasting Armageddon? Oh, it was so good.
That's from the commentary track that's on like the DVD, which is like is insane. And Ben Affleck sounds like he's drunk a fair few beers and is really like spilling the beans. He talks about Michael Bay. I'd love this fact, and I'll say it whenever I can. Made Ben Affleck get his teeth fixed. He spent 20 grand for Ben Affleck to get his teeth fixed because he's like, you're not a leading man yet because your teeth are a bit too crooked. So if you kind of look at pre-Armageddon, like Ben Affleck looks like a regular guy from Boston. Afterwards, he looks like cling, shiny, clean, like straight teeth. And it's like when you watch that film again, you're like, they are white, they are straight. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, it's like a boardroom for any major business in the world. Do you know what I mean? Just straight and white.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all. There's been like women especially been
Yes.
made to do way crazier things.
Yeah, definitely.
And I kind of feel like if someone wanted to give me 20 odd grand to get my teeth like completely like looking as perfect as they ever could, I would not complain.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, last year, I lost a tooth.
Oh no!
It's one at the back. I'm all right. But,
Okay.
like, I was kind of looking at, how do I, like, could I get like a new one, basically? And it's like, that's 2 grand, like by today's money. So I was like, damn, like I can only imagine what a full, the full set being. I'm not sure what they are, if they're veneers or they've kind of been like.
Yeah, they all get veneers, I think.
I don't know how they do it. I don't know the magic that's going on with the teeth. But this feels like a weird avenue to be going down, Charlie. So
sorry, I got us down on the teeth front. But yeah, no, Armageddon, all those films, but most recently, yeah, Highwayman and Saving Mr. Banks. I'm a fan of those 2 films.
What one of those you were meant to come on the podcast to talk about? Yeah, I roped you in to talking about the 50 Shades of Grey film.
Do you know what? I feel honored. If anything, I'm enjoying this a lot more, I think, because I feel like I would just end up talking about Mary Poppins a lot instead. I have a lot to say about Mary Poppins, but maybe we will eventually get.
We will. We have to start. We have to start at the bottom and work our way to the top.
Yeah.
Talk about the depravity that is 50 Shades of Grey. To talk about the loveliness that is Saving Mr. Banks.
I mean, we keep saying this, but I really didn't think there was really any depravity in this.
Yeah, no, I just mean like it in the way of like it's just I don't know, shit. Do you know what I mean? Talk about the shit. We got to go to the bottom of the barrel before we can go to like near the top of the barrel. I wouldn't say Saving Mr. Banks is a shiny apple right at the top of that barrel, but it's a good film.
Fair.
So yeah, let's talk about 50 Shades Darker. But before we do, here's the trailer.
Yeah.
Intrigued.
You got me looking so crazy right now, yeah. Looking so crazy right now.
I want you back. I had no idea what this was going to become.
I don't see how this can work. You're just gonna stand there gawking?
Yes.
You got me looking so crazy.
What do you want, Anastasia?
This time, no rules, no punishments, and No more secrets.
Looking so crazy in love, got me looking so crazy in love. Baby, you got me. 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 Got me. Got me. Got me. Got me.
Do you think you're the first woman who's tried to save him?
Oh, 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 no, no.
I've definitely got to admit that that's probably not the most audio friendly trailer in the world. But
No.
that moment when there was like the boom, 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 like when it was kind of all popping off, I think like one of the shots in that, and we'll get to this scene in a lot, this sequence in a lot of detail, I can imagine,
Mhm.
is like shots of the helicopter going out of control, which like
Oh, yes.
yes. So before we get to your relationship with this film and when you first saw it, can you give us a little plot synopsis for this film? Can you set it up for us what this film is about, Charlie?
Okay. So, well, I feel like we should say, first of all, the first film ends on the cliffhanger of, will she ever be able to forgive him? Will he ever be able to, like, get over his weird relationship issues? Will they get back together? And the answer from pretty much the very start of this film is yes, that all happens
Immediately.
fairly quickly,
Yeah.
immediately, and there's not very much drama about it. It's like, I didn't really like it when you did that thing. And he's like, yeah, I can understand that, which is kind of all we needed him to say in the first film. And they get back together, and that is pretty much it, I feel, apart from you find out that some of his ex-girlfriends have gone a bit crazy and start, like, stalking her, and
She's having she's now like a girl boss working in in publishing
publishing,
and
yeah.
has a seedy boss, but she also has a boyfriend who can just solve any of her problems.
Every problem.
Yeah.
Basically all the problems that were there in the first film are no longer really there. All the problems that arise in the second film get fixed fairly quickly, and they seem to be living a successful, happy life.
What? Just as like my opening like kind of thoughts on this film, it felt like I was watching like an EastEnders omnibus at like 2 times speed, because it felt so episodic, and there's just like kind of so much like stuff happens, but then it's just kind of dealt with so quickly, and it's like that should be like at least like a 20-minute section in this film, like some kind of tension and drama to it. Yeah, it's like literally resolved in 2 scenes. Like,
and not only is it resolved, things improve for the people. It's not like it's resolved, but we're scarred from that. It's like, oh, my boss was a dick, but now it's resolved because I have his job, so now I've gone up in the world. Oh, you were in a helicopter crash. Oh, but it's fine because you're safe now, and you know that we all love each other a lot, and we're improving our relationship. It's just everything. Not only is everything fixed, but at least in the first film, all the drama and tension came from the little, character that the 2 main characters had. In the second film, everything that goes wrong happens because of outside
forces,
issues.
Yeah.
And they are just walking about their lives, and it's other things and other people going wrong. They don't cause any of the drama. And then they just fix it and move on.
But I would say he's just as problematic as he is in the first film, right? Like he is like he has still got all these weird hang-ups corpse and kind of like, I don't know, he's seen like there's a really icky scene where there's a confrontation between Anna, Layla, her name is, like one of his old submissives, and he kind of
Yes.
defuses the situation by kind of using his like kinky charms and his kind of hold over her to be like, give me the gun, and then takes it like a step further by going, and now kneel, and like puts his hand on her head and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it's just like, have you got all these women like locked up in apartments and kind of like, it felt weird. It felt like there was definitely like some bodies in some closets that he's not telling us about.
Yeah. But then even then that happens and she's like, and Anna's like a bit freaked out. She's like, oh, is that how I'm gonna end up? Or, oh, you don't really care about your past girlfriends. He's like, I've sent her to the best psych world in the country. She's gonna get all the help she needs. I'm gonna pay for all her health care. And it's just like, oh, okay. So like that's solved too.
Yeah.
Even the bit at the beginning with the old mistress woman, the woman who like caused all these issues for him in the first place, she comes out the woodwork, and like him and his mum step forward and they're like, yes, you are a problem. You're upsetting Anna. Go away. And that's it. There's no confrontation of being like, oh, but she's my best friend. Or it's like, nope, we're on Anna's side. It's all good.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. I guess one of the places to start off with in this conversation is quite early on in this film. We get, I guess, what was one of our lowlights of the first film was a conversation between Anna and her mum on the phone, who exclusively lives in this film on the other end of a telephone. And I just wanted to play that first exchange they have on the telephone.
Great. Have you heard from Christian?
Yeah. He sent me flowers to wish me luck.
Sweetheart, are you ever going to tell me what happened between you?
Fundamental differences, I guess.
Fundamental differences. The thing is, that happens at like 4 minutes 20. I only know that because I have to write down times to get clips. And by like 10 minutes, they are back together. It's what I don't understand. There is no like, will they, won't they about it. It's like,
nope.
It's like his gesture of going to her friend's like photo exhibition, which again, Jose, creepy guy.
Yeah.
She rebuffed him in the first film, and his like exhibition is like 60% candid photos of Anastasia, and she is like shocked, as if like I didn't even know these photos. Like, do you know what I mean? I imagine they were taken with a telescopic lens. Like she's like, I didn't even know these photos existed. Why are they blown up like twice the size of my actual body? And why is there so many of them? And why have they all just been sold?
That really bothered me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I genuinely, I thought he was completely, like, that was really toxic. Like, there's a reason people, like, and then she's proved right, like, because she's like, you know, her privacy is completely taken away. And then her ex-boyfriend buys all the photos. Like, yes, that's what men do. That's what creepy. This is why women don't like their pictures being taken.
Yeah.
Never mind publicly displayed. To buy and purchase and own.
I've got a clip of that first meeting between Anastasia and Christian. Check this out, guys.
It was you, wasn't it? You just went and bought all of these?
Like the doy.
Oh, like strangers gawking at you.
Why are you here?
For you. Hey. Can we talk somewhere private?
No.
Look, I'm not very good at this. I've never wanted to try again.
Christian, it's not a good
Let's
idea.
talk. Okay? Just talk, please. Have dinner with me.
What did you think? What did you think of the kind of weird reconciliation that they have, like the kind of way it's played out in this film.
I mean, first of all, I just want to say when he says like, "Oh, I didn't like strangers gawking at you, so I gave all the money to the guy that put your privacy in danger." Like that's all of that is not the way to handle that situation. So that's one thing. That kind of gesture does not help it for me. Um, I mean, to be honest, I actually can't really remember. Did they not just go have sex after that?
They
Is that not
basically
it?
go
Like,
for a meal, and like one of the things I don't quite understand about this is like there has been no like character development of
nope.
any of the characters, and especially like Anastasia. She kind of like comes back in this film, and she's gone from being like this prudish, almost like, oh, this world is too much for me, to just being this kind of ultra game for it vixen who's kind of like,
Mm,
well, now it's like there's this contract's not involved. I'm game for it. Do you know what I mean? And it's like,
mm,
I don't like, and it doesn't go that much into like, I could understand if it was an element of like, oh, now you actually love me. Like, do you know,
yeah.
like, I actually know that you love me, then cool. Yeah, I want to kind of explore with you. But it doesn't even feel like he loves her in any
No.
way. Everything just feels like quite empty and hollow, and all the gestures he makes throughout the film are just like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think, yeah, within no time at all, they kind of have sex, and he's like, calls his like, I don't know, like accountant the next morning, and is like, oh, put 24 grand in Anastasia Steele's
Yeah.
account. Like, I don't, what the fuck's that about?
Yeah. That's yeah. It's. I mean, I can understand her after that first date of being like, "Oh, okay, maybe you do want to change. That's all I need." Maybe she's like, I just needed to know he was open to change because for the whole of the first film, he was so just like, "You're the one being closed-minded," blah 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 blah, and like not doing anything.
Yeah.
So I can see like I can understand how. I think it's also that's quite realistic. Like we've all been in relationships before where you've had fights or you've broken up, and then it's like, "Oh, well, maybe he's changed," and then you sleep
Mhm.
together. So like that didn't bother me too much because I was like, that would probably happen. And
Mhm.
if the whole film is just going to be her being like, "No, not
Mhm.
until you say you love me," and I'm like, ah, that would have been boring. But then it still ended up being a very boring film.
Yeah, it is very boring. And like one of the things he tells her on that like kind of first date, I guess, of this film, is he like reiterates his origin story, and like the film opens
Yeah.
with this flashback of
Yeah.
I guess like Christian's, but like childhood, when he's like hiding under a table and there's this mean scary man, and it's all like dimly lit and like kind of looks a bit black and
Yeah.
white.
And this is, yeah, so I've got starts with childhood abuse, not sexy. Is the note I have for that. And I think it just bummed me out at the start because these are films that are meant to be like, you know, sort of fun and sexy, titillating films for women. And it's like, oh, can women not have a sexy film without it having some really deep and dark backstory? Like, watching that doesn't make me aroused.
Yeah.
And like, and I've also got written down here at some point, around all this, because all the complicated stuff, that stuff at the start with the child, like him going through his child abuse and stuff. I've just written, why can't women just have porn? why, why can't this film just be, you know, Christian Grey looking sexy in various places? Why does there have to be all this work
Yes.
to
Yeah,
go
yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's
yeah.
there's an element to this film
I
that
s-
is like that kind of thing of, I can fit, like, do you know what I mean? He's broken. I can fix him. And like there's a moment that is perplexing me that's quite early on in this, when he gets her to draw a square on his chest in lipstick, and I have no
Yeah.
idea what it means. He just says like, "These are my boundaries." I'm like, what? What are your boundaries? Having lipstick drawn on your chest? Like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Was that not to be like so she didn't touch his chest, so she didn't touch his heart, or where his burn marks were? I
Oh,
thought that's what that was about.
oh,
Because
that's
like
the
outside the square, she can touch his arms and she can touch his head. For the listeners, I'm like patting an invisible man. Um, but she can't touch his chest because that's where all his like, are they cigarette burns? Is that what those are meant to be? The like welts on his skin
I,
from like his previous mistress,
I
his
get.
previous dominatrix woman.
I'm guessing so, or they're supposed to be that guy used to put out cigarettes on him when he was a kid or something like that.
Oh, maybe it was him. See, they don't go into all that. It's
No,
like, who did this to you? I think she actually says, "Who did this to you?" And he doesn't say. And I'm like, that's a fair question.
yeah.
That never gets. I assumed it was the woman from when he was a teenager, but you're right. It could have been the guy. So yeah, I thought it was like, oh, don't touch my scars or my chest. It's too intimate.
So
Is what I took from that.
have Dakota Johnson and Jamie Dornan got better in this film or worse? You would have expected, like, having a whole film to kind of get to know characters, that they would understand them more and kind of their performances would be better, their chemistry would be better. But what's your kind of reading on it? Do they seem better as a kind of couple, or are they worse as actors?
You know what? I'm still going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't think they get enough screen time to explore any real chemistry. I think there's even less sex in this film than there is in the first film. Pretty sure.
I think there's more scenes, but they're a lot short. Like, there's kind of a lot of like quickies. Do you know what I mean? There's kind of just like a kind of
Right.
30 seconds, wham, bam. Whereas the first one, it's a lot more like
Yeah.
long, protracted sex scenes. Like, they're kind of
Yeah.
they're in replacement of what you'd have in an action film with an action set piece. It's like, now cut to slow music, sex scene, red room, or like, do you know what I mean? I don't know, putting an ice
Yeah.
cube up a minge or something like that.
No, I never thought I would say this. If I could hear myself saying this back to Charlie, who recorded the first podcast, I missed the sex scenes from the first film because the sex scenes in this film, you're right, they're too. This is meant to be a film that's meant to be about like BDSM, and it's not all meant to be about like teasing and all this stuff. There's no teasing. All the sex scenes are very short. And you see so much of Dakota's nipples
Mhm.
in this film, and none of Jamie Dornan's arse.
Yeah.
And that was the opposite in the first film. And I don't know if it's because it's a male director for this film, it's a female director in the first film, but there. Sorry, I'm getting into this now.
No.
In these like sex scenes, it's like he doesn't even fully take his trousers down. It's just like. And I'm like, why?
Yeah,
Why? We're seeing massive nipples from Dakota at every
Give it up.
chance,
Yeah.
and he's not even bothering to take his trousers off. Like,
Yeah, he's
why?
basically popping it out of his flies, right? Like,
He's
some of the
popping
sex.
it out.
Yeah,
He's just popping it out and popping it in, and that's it. That's all the sex. That's it. I
yeah.
was like, that's not what I signed up for.
I guess, like, and that is the thing. Like, this film does get to moments where it does get slightly erotic, and it is that thing of like the teasing that is erotic. And there's that moment he pulls out, which I guess, like, I was getting excited because I thought we were getting a callback to the first film when he pulls out these two, like, what looks at first like they're anal beads, but I guess they're
Yes.
like love eggs. And
Yes.
she replies with,
No, you're not putting those in my butt.
They don't go in your butt.
and
I mean, it was a fair question. I'm glad they clarified. But again, later on, they just sort of like whip him out, and it's just like chuck him aside. Like, there's not, rolling around in carpet fluff. It's like, kind of,
Mm.
not really called back to. And that's as much as you get. Because I was like, okay, it's
Mhm.
like 20 minutes into the film. It's got like 2 hours to go. We're starting off with love eggs. All right, this might go somewhere. And that's about as far as it all goes.
So it feels
And
that now
does
we're
he
kind of
even remote control them?
no.
Are they remote
I guess they're just moving about, like,
Oh.
yeah, and I'm sure it wouldn't be recommended as well with like love eggs that you use your own saliva. I'm not sure, like,
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think there was enough prep. In all the sex in this, including that, there's not nearly enough foreplay. And again, this is meant to be a sexy film for women. There's no Jamie Dornan bum, and there's no foreplay.
well, we'll get back
How
into
is this working?
we'll get back into the plot of this, but it feels like since we're on the topic of the sex scenes in this film, we might as well just like talk about all of them. One of the ones I wanted to talk about was I've got it written down in my notes as it's like leg parter sex scene, and he has this kind of device which like she
Oh yeah!
like because she goes like the maid like Mrs. like Doyle or something like that is kind of
That's
in,
what we'll call her now.
yeah in the apartment and has left the red room open, and first of all she finds some nipple clamps and says this to Christian.
Does she come in here a lot? Does she dust in here?
Question
Those are
we
nipple
asked in the first
clamps.
podcast.
Yes.
Come here. Give me your hand.
Yeah, so she plays with the nipple clamps and then she says, what is this? Which like it looks like some kind of steampunk contraption with some like braces, like telescopic with like kind of hot like leg harnesses on
They're like
either
wooden
end.
stirrups. But yeah. Also, so wait, did we ever see them use the nipple clamps?
No, the nipple clamps,
No.
like the butt plug from the first film, the nipple clamps are just like mentioned, and there is no. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't Chekhov's
Yeah.
nipple clamps. It wasn't Chekhov's butt plug.
Chekhov's, yeah, and I feel
You were robbed.
unsatisfied. Robbed. Because, well, you see so much of her nipples. She's got very protruding nipples.
Yeah.
They're ideal, probably, for those kind of nipple clamps. So why have they not utilized that?
Well,
I don't know.
Even when you get to the last sex scene as well, it's quite vanilla. It's basically like she is like blindfolded, and then he just puts like oil on her, essential oils, and then they just kind of like they just have sex. Basically, it's not like it's not like the kind of raunch and steam that we were kind of promised as 50 Shades of Grey fans. I guess that's what we are now. We're 50 Shades of Grey fans, right? Like we're two-way thirds through the trilogy. But yeah, getting back to that scene with that like that weird telescopic leg thing,
wooden shelf thing.
But she says to him something about, oh, what's this? And he replies like, oh, you need to learn how to walk before you run. She's like, oh, well, I like running. And then they use them, and they're hilarious. To like, it's hilarious. So the way it kind of works, if you haven't seen the film, is just basically it parts the wearer's legs, and then there's just a bar between the legs, and he basically like uses her like circus equipment. It kind of feels like it's like you learn juggling. Do you know what I mean? You learn the Diablo, you learn a bit of poi, and then it's this thing where you're kind of flipping someone back and forth like they're a pancake or something. It's like it seems weird. It seems very bizarre. I'm not like I'm not. Yeah, again, I'm not like I said on the first. I'm not prudish. It just like that feels like a lot of work for essentially being like like it feels like it'd be a lot more sensual to like touch someone and turn them over as opposed to have this weird device where you're kind of like like flipping them over like
Also, like, is it that much different to the first film where she had her feet tied to the harness and stuff? Like,
no, not really.
Basically, does the same thing, doesn't it?
It's that he's now got like the ability to just kind of at will go, now I want to look at your back. Wha-bam! Like, now I want to look at your front. Wha-bam! Like, it's just like, there's nothing kind of, it doesn't feel like it's aiding sex in any way. Do you know what I mean? That's
No,
what I
and I
wanted to
don't think
see.
I don't think, I mean, it certainly wouldn't be comfortable for her. I don't think it would be comfortable for him either, because surely he's going to like bang his shins on it.
Mhm.
You know? Surely it makes things more difficult. So yeah, I wasn't very impressed by that. And I feel again, there must be surely other things they could have explored. Why go for the weird, boring wooden slap thing?
Yeah. All of it seems like, I don't like, that is the thing that didn't stand out to me the least, was the sex in this. For
Yeah.
a film that's supposed to
I
be,
mean, I'd practically forgotten about it. That's how little
yeah,
I remembered it.
like, it's like,
Before wait, is that before or after she gets like a makeover? Is this before they go to the ball or after?
this is
That's
after, but
before.
let's talk about the ball.
After.
Because
Yeah.
the ball just comes out of nowhere, right? It's just kind of like a lot
Yeah.
in this film. It's just like, all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to this thing. It's on Friday. Yeah, let's go there. Bye. Yeah, we're there now.
Yeah. I mean, so one thing that I didn't, despite the fact we spoke for about 3 hours on the last podcast, something I didn't talk about that I really want, that I think definitely comes up here is, and this is me maybe getting a bit personal, I have a weird conflicted thing, like fantasy about the whole getting a makeover thing, getting a man to pick you out an outfit thing, right? Because they do this in the first film and they do it a lot here. It's like there is, and it's like you see it in like James Bond, in a lot of films where it's like, oh, I know exactly what you'll look good in, and like buys her the perfect dress and the perfect size and the perfect style and the perfect lingerie to go with it and all the jewelry and everything. You're like, great, I don't have to go shopping. Somebody's looked at me and thought, this is what she'll look exquisite in, and like knows me so well. And on one side, I'm like, yeah, that would be super cool. And on the other side, I'd be like, ugh, that's really horrible and creepy and disgusting and actually really controlling and weird. And I just, every time it comes up in a film, I'm initially like, ooh, he gave her a pretty dress. And then I'm immediately like, no, in real life, I would hate that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I've always found it in relationships, you know, like what's that thing of like you hear of guys who buy their partners like lingerie for like an anniversary or like Christmas or whatever. And
Yeah.
I'm always like, it's never quite like sat with me, because it's like, it feels like I'd have to need like a little notebook with like sizes and stuff like that. Like the kind of admin that goes with it feels a bit like invasive in a weird way. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I know a voucher for Ann Summers isn't as sexy, but like, do you know what I mean? It's like I'm a practical guy. Like I don't, and I'm riddled with anxiety that I'd get it wrong. And then, do you know what I mean?
I mean,
then it's like,
I've had friends who have worked in I've worked in a lot of shops, but never lingerie or underwear. Hey, Ivana Coppola might know a lot about this. And like, and guys would come in being like, yeah, I need to buy lingerie for my wife for Christmas or whatever. And they'd be like, okay, what size? And they're like, I don't know. It's like, you have to memorize like 3 digits. Like,
yeah.
it's written, you've known this woman for how many years? You probably spent the first couple of years just looking at her boobs. Like, how do you not know her bra size? And then why do you expect me to be able to guess it?
Yeah. See, that's why. Yeah, I like, not trying to dig myself out of a hole here. I'm not one of those guys. Like, I just found the idea of, most early stages of relationship, I probably am looking at the boobs most of the time, but at the same time, it's the admin of finding out the exact size that I was kind of like, when does it get to the point where, I don't know, I want to wear her skin as a suit? Do you know what I mean? It's like how far does it go? How far will it go with these kind of like?
I think that's the weird conflict about the idea of getting that as the gift. Is like, on the one side, I find the idea of a guy taking all of that admin off me really, really fun and romantic. Being like, oh, great! I don't need to go find a dress, like try on lots of dresses and like feel gross, and like somebody knows exactly what to put me in and I'll look perfect. But then there's also that creepy side of being like, oh, is this a controlling thing will he be upset if I don't wear it?
Yeah.
Is it weird that he wants me to dress a specific way? Because that is something that, and I feel like that comes up in these sort of films a lot. And initially, it does feel like, ooh, how exciting. But the more you think about it, the more weird it is.
Well, it leaves a like kind of bitter taste in your mouth in this film when you find out that he kind of has this like dossier on her that kind of like
Yes.
is the kind of thing I'm talking about, where it's like, do you know what I mean? Like he knows how many, like she like remarks like, oh, the only thing that's not in here is how many times I take like a toilet break at work. And it's like, why stop there? Do you know what I mean? It kind of
Yeah.
feels like he would know, I don't know, like when her cycle is. Do you know what I mean? Like it feels like
Oh,
he's
he
plotting out all
probably
that.
does, because it's his doctor that
Yes.
like he insisted that she go to his doctor for
be
the
on the pill,
pill.
yeah.
So like
Yeah.
he probably does know all that.
That's what I
Do
don't
we
like.
reckon Christian? Can I ask a weird? Do you think Christian Grey is really into period sex or no?
No, I
I
don't reckon
can't
he's.
decide. I don't think he is.
I don't reckon he's as like. I reckon he's too clinical for that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes, I
it's
agree. And to be honest, I don't judge him for that at all. But it's that weird thing as well. Like, if I don't know, now I feel like we're doing. You know, what's that? Things that Myers-Briggs test. I feel like I just want a Myers-Briggs.
Well, one thing we are doing, I've noticed, is talking about things that are around the film, but avoiding talking about the film, which may give you an
Oh, sorry.
opinion. No, which may give you a hint at our thoughts on the film. Because I'm doing the same. I'm trying to avoid
Yeah.
talking about this kind of steaming pile of shit as much as you, Charlie. So,
But it's I think I'm not avoiding talking. I think it's because the film was created to be this like talking point about like sexual exploration and blah blah blah. Ooh, how do you feel about this? And it's like, but it doesn't give enough to actually allow people to have that conversation. Instead, you just end up talking about everything that it's not.
yeah, well, you don't get the internal logic of the character. You don't get Anastasia's internal
No.
logic why she has made this sudden change in like being up for it. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, yeah,
Yeah.
there's that whole aspect of diving back into a toxic relationship where you think like they're gonna change, it's gonna be different this time. But then like there is that thing of like she just seems like a totally different person. It's like all of a sudden, like she's got a job, and it's
Mm.
like, hey, now I'm in control. Do
The
you know what I mean?
woman
Like,
of the world.
yeah. Like she needs like knee-high leather boots to be like, do you know what I mean? I'm taking charge this time, Christian. It's like, but she just falls into his traps anyway, of kind of just being like,
Yeah.
he'll do something shit, and then he like wows her by being like, hey, come ride on my boat. You can
I'm
sail it
rich.
for a little bit. Yeah. Here's some money. Let's throw
Yeah.
some
I'm
money at the
rich.
problem.
Although I suppose, is it that much of a change? Because in the first film, the thing that she really had most issue with was the punishment nature of
Mhm.
it. And even then, she didn't mind it a little bit at the start. She just didn't like it when it was like, oh, you literally want to just beat me up for your own satisfaction. Like, I'm not. And then he does say, he's like, oh, or she says in that clip, like, no more punishments. And he's like, okay. So is it that big of a change? Like,
Mm.
considering she was a virgin, she'd never done anything sexual in her life. She was pretty up for, like, even though it's still not like that like big a deal, but considering she went from nothing in the first film to being like, yeah, I'll be tied up, yeah, I'll be blindfolded,
Mhm.
yeah, you can hit my hand. So I think she was fairly game in
Mhm.
the first film. And maybe this film, it's just like she's just maybe being a bit more assertive
Yeah.
in saying what her boundaries are.
Yeah. So,
So
one of
I
the things.
disagree.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We're trying to figure out this film together. That's what this whole process is about, Charlie. I'm
Yeah.
happy to be wrong. I'm happy to disagree as well.
It's not a hill you're gonna die on. It's
No,
50 Shades
50
Darker.
Shades Darker is no. There's other hills I'm happy to take a stand on, but this is not one of them. Oh, like I did want to talk about something, but it's totally just fucking like
Um,
escaped my mind.
going going back to the ball, I was super disappointed with the ball
Mm,
because all of the posters and the trailer and everything shows you all these pictures and everything of them being at this really glamorous, sexy, mysterious masked ball. And then it was at his parents' house. It
yeah,
was being thrown for his mum and dad and like his mum and dad's pals. And like that's so unsexy. And then and it's like I was expecting, I was like, okay, they're doing like this masked Venetian ball. There's gonna be lots of like glorious, like glamorous costumes. I thought it was gonna be like, have you ever heard of those killing kittens parties?
oh, the real, yeah, like the kind of like exclusive invite only kind of
Yeah.
affairs. Yeah, yeah,
And you have to wear masks and stuff, and it's like there's playrooms and orgies and stuff. I was like, ooh, maybe it's gonna get a bit like that.
it's gonna
Like
get,
that could be fun.
yeah, it's gonna go full eyes wide shut, right? It's gonna be like we're gonna
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
be on the Rubicon of what of taste and decency and get real sexy with
Yeah,
it.
it's gonna
None of
be
that.
lots of people, lots of really hot people just like getting sexy with masks on. And instead it was like, oh, she goes to an auction with with her boyfriend's mum, gets shouted at by a middle-aged woman, and then they have sex in like the unsexiest, like in a teenage boy's bedroom
Yeah,
with
yeah.
this like shitty blinds and curtain. I was like, at least if they're gonna disappear and be like, let's leave this party and go have sex, go to some like really like glamorous like art gallery wing of the house or
Yeah.
like somewhere really, really interesting. Don't go to his childhood bedroom
What I
in
don't
your ball gown.
what I don't get about his bedroom is like they're supposed to be this moneyed family, but his bedroom looks like that of like a teenager from a Steven Spielberg film from the 80s. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's all like wood
It's like the room
paneled.
from Boy Meets World.
Yeah, it's like what is this? And I checked out some of the posters he's got on his wall. One of them, he has a Chronicles of Riddick poster, and he has like a Japanese Blade Runner poster, I believe, on his wall as well. So
Oh,
I don't know
yeah.
what that tells us about Christian Grey. I guess, um, like
It's just, it's like such a plain boring. I've written blinds aren't sexy. They're not. Because they've got these like shitty looking. Oh, it's terrible that I was like distracted from the sex by looking at like these shitty, like not quite closed
yeah,
Venetian blinds. That's as close, like, I wanted them to be like, having sex in the, even if it was like the cloakroom of the party or something,
yeah,
like,
or
you
like an
know,
observatory, or kind of like a greenhouse,
yeah,
or something like that has some element of
yeah,
something a bit more close to the party as well, that has that kind of element of like it
exactly,
could be found out or something. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I
exactly.
don't know.
Something a bit more,
Yeah, not the
something a bit more glamorous.
not the room with all the coats in it. Do you know what I mean? Like that's kind of like, oh, come on.
Like on the bed, yeah. So yeah, I was very disappointed with that.
I I I've got a clip that I think may
Mhm.
like like prove your point a bit more about her asserting dominance and assertiveness when she like like makes a bid in the auction for a stay at
Ah.
his kind of Aspen villa, and kind of his reaction to that of kind of her winning the bid, and he doesn't he kind of she gains his respect in some weird twisted
Mm.
way.
I don't know whether to worship at your feet or spank you.
$24,000 going once,
I think I'll
going twice.
take option 2.
Where yeah, which leads to her getting spanked in his childhood bedroom, right? Which feels a bit weird.
Yeah. I don't, yeah. I just, so disappointing. And then we don't really go back to the ball. There's no dancing even. There's no like mysterious strangers. There's like,
I
yeah.
I thought there would be something as like, I don't know, as hack as like somebody else being in the same dress as her, or some kind of element of mistaken identity at the ball. Do you know what I mean? Like some kind of do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Or like she can't find him because there's lots of men in tuxes and he keeps changing his mask or something, and it's, I don't know, like,
yeah, or even to play up
like
that
that.
kind of, because this film like gives us like some horror imagery with this previous like play pet of Christians. And like there could have been stuff of like flashes of her at the party and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
she could have been at the
she's there,
party in
yeah.
disguise. That could have all been kind of fun. They could have ended up if they're doing this big Venetian mass ball, they could have gone out into like a maze, and like maybe they'd have sex in a maze, and there'd be like stuff jumping out at them, all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, it was over so quickly. It was so disappointing. We spent most of the ball in his childhood bedroom and then in the ladies' toilet.
Yes.
That's most, and it's like the two of the last places I want to be at that ball. Like,
so let's.
I wanted them even to be like, you know, they go into the room where the feast is and they have sex on top of all the grapes or something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted there to be like a big ballroom feast that they like get really. I wanted it to be really hedonistic.
Yeah, he's eating
like,
charcuterie off of her body. Do you know what I mean? They're eating
or a
cheeses.
chocolate fountain or something.
Yeah, something decadent and hedonistic would have been perfect.
That's exactly what it should have. That's what it's meant to be, a mass ball. You know,
but this,
very disappointing.
This film's very soapy, and I think like that confrontation in the toilet between Anastasia and Elena, played by Kim Basinger, kind of her warning Anastasia off of Christian, being like, if it wasn't for me, he'd be in jail, as if like, and again, that's quite.
What's that about?
I guess it's supposed to be that like he just has these animalistic urges to kind of be this dominant, that he can't control himself, and if it wasn't for her, he would like he wouldn't know how to control it at all, and kind of, I don't know, be out there like beating the shit out of people. Do you know what I mean? He would be a Patrick Bateman if it wasn't for her. Kind of, you know, that thing like psychopaths. All it is determined by how much money you're born into. So like if you're poor, you go out and kill people. If you're like if you're rich, you become a business tycoon.
Yeah. There's also this sort of nature versus it's nature versus nurture. Because as you say, Patrick Bateman is perfect. Like and the whole of the first film, I got huge Patrick Bateman vibe. But obviously he becomes a business tycoon and then also still murders people. But like, people say it's like 50-50 nature nurture. So as long as like you have caring parents as well, like, yeah, you might become like a business tycoon, or you might you know, still have those kind of tendencies, but you're not actually gonna hurt someone.
Yeah.
And it seems like his parents are very loving and very caring, except for the fact that she didn't realize her best friend was like fucking her son.
Yeah.
And like torturing him. And it's like, you know, so that's all kind of bullshit. Because, you know, if the friend had just left him alone, he would have just been with his very nice, caring mum and sister and stuff, and have probably quite a happy time.
Yeah, it's bizarre. One of the things I wanted to talk about is, again, there's so many kind of weird plot threads that are brought up and then dealt with very quickly, but this is one that kind of we are left at the end of the film thinking, oh, there's going to be more in the third. And it is Anastasia's boss, Jack, played by Eric Johnson. And,
oh yeah.
Let's play a clip of probably the creepiest man in the world.
There are plenty of qualified people who would kill for this job. I mean, look, I don't want to brag, but I'm a pretty great teacher.
I'm sure you are.
I'm just not seeing the initiative on your side of it.
I've read more than you've asked me to, and I'm on top of it.
I'm talking about going the extra mile. Unless you want me to compete with Christian Grey.
Can you talk us through your thought process throughout this scene and tell us how this scene plays out, Charlie?
He's very creepy. And it's, I don't know. I could see it coming right from the start when he asked her, "How are you making out with those manuscripts?" I'm like, "Oh, right.
Yeah.
You should have been aware of this before."
And
So yeah, he basically sexually assaults her, or at least attempts to. And there's this whole thing about like, "Oh, we're gonna see what's gonna happen." It's like, just fire him. He should be not just fired. He should probably be taken to like court. Like,
yeah, well,
it's quite simple.
there's that whole there's like, the thing is, she seems to be just like walking into situations with like
Yeah.
like her blinkers on, not realizing like the first instance, I guess, would be when she's invited to Friday drinks and there's no one else there but him. Like, and then like Christian gets shirty with him. And then even in
Yeah.
this scene, like when he's like kind of after that, she apologizes to him and says like, "Oh,
Yeah. And like, yeah, the second that he starts, he's very predatory, and it's like, "Oh, other people would kill for this job, blah 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 blah." She could be just like, "Oh, fucking stick it then."
yeah."
Like, yeah, especially because she knows from the other, like, he's had 2 other assistants leave. I think their HR department is horrific. Why did the HR woman not say anything to her beforehand? Like, or at least be like, you can always come to me if there's something that's making you uncomfortable.
I want to read the transcripts of these closing interviews with these previous like assistants, because like there must have been some stuff in there.
If he's tried this on with 2 other women, why has he not been fired yet? Why is he still doing this? Like, they're a terrible company.
What I don't get is like his logic as a character. Like, yeah, he may be a piece of shit, that is fine, but to like, he must not be ignorant to the fact Christian Grey has just bought the kind of holding company that it like. Do you know what I mean? He's kind of like, he'll be his boss's boss essentially, yet still tries this shit and says this icky thing. He says a couple of icky things. I've got them both on clips, but he says this first to Anastasia.
If you're gonna fuck your way to prominence, that you should do it with someone who can at least make you smarter, not just richer.
That's nothing. You want to get really icky? Here's the cherry on top, guys.
I can make you come like nobody else has. Not him. Not anyone.
No.
And
I think this is the thing. He's so arrogant. Obviously, like, he's extremely controlling and manipulative, but he's also obviously he obviously thinks he is more attractive than Christian Grey and has more going for him, and that maybe does think so little of her that she might be like, "Sure, I'll sleep with you. I'll carry on sleeping with him, and I might sleep with you too." Like, maybe that's what he thinks she's up for.
Yeah, it's bizarre though, because like there is like no, I don't know. There's no, even that. There's no real tension in it, and it's kind of all capped off within like 30 minutes of the film. Really,
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like it's like a 2-hour 20 runtime. It's like you could have like given us a bit more of that in a way, do you know what I mean? Or kind of made it a bit more interesting in regards to like the storytelling. Be that there is an attraction there, like not him just go full like crazy. Do you know what I mean? Just like maybe, I don't know, create some like kind of some like in the first one where it's like it looks like it's going to set up Jose as like a kind of potential like stumbling block in the relationship. It's like in this one it's like, no, he's a creep, let's just get rid of him straight away.
He's
and
very
then it's done.
Yeah, if it'd been like, because I guess they maybe tried to do that a little bit with him, like bringing her coffee and being a good, like, I'm a good boss, I'm a cool boss sort of thing. But you could just tell he was a creep. And it was very clear how jealous he was immediately when she got a boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it had been like, oh, maybe he is nice, and then suddenly he shows his cards, and it's like, oh no, he's a psychopath. That would have been a bit more of a. I see what you mean. Yeah, it's like.
What's weird? It feels like almost like. I guess it isn't the case, like, because this is written by E.L. James's husband, but it almost feels like that thing where, like where like the budget doesn't allow for it, where it's like in the book maybe she does go to New York, and that's when she finds out that he's a creep or something like that, which again would have made for more danger, more threat, because it's not just like she's at work; she's now away from home. She's kind of somewhere she doesn't know, and it creates a lot more tension in it. Like Anastasia's out on her own; she's trying to escape this guy, not just like Christian's outside the door.
He's
like,
literally outside the door with a car.
Yeah, and his muscle of a driver, Taylor.
Yeah. It's the stakes again are suddenly gone, and then what happens? Does Christian then sort it out?
Yeah,
he like makes some calls. And again, that annoys me because it's like, well, it should be that she then goes to the HR woman. And maybe Christian's like, you're right. You should make a formal complaint. You should report him and get him fired. Rather than him being like, taking it all and doing it for her. And then her just being like, it's like she's like a damsel in distress. It's a damsel in distress thing. And she doesn't get to come off it, with any sense of power. It's like, oh, thank God I had a boyfriend to sort it all out for me.
Yeah, and the film thinks that, like, I don't know, it's kind of giving her some urgency and like she has some purpose by like delivering the line. What is this line right here? As if to be like, oh well, like because she's offered the chance of becoming a kept woman by a Christian, but she responds with this.
You can just
Christian, you know I love working. You can't keep me locked up in your penthouse.
Which, like, what, just because she, like, do you know what I mean? It's like all of a sudden she's like, she's working it. But, like, then the film doesn't, like, show us her making her way on her own in business.
Yes,
exactly. She's then, like, the product of nepotism and is kind of, like, handed the keys to this company where she's gone from being assistant to acting like CEO, basically.
Editor,
it makes no sense.
I felt really sorry for the other girl who then becomes her assistant, who I got the sense at the start of this film, like, she just started the job, isn't it? It's like a new job, right? So she's like hardly been there. She goes in, I get the sense this other girl has probably been there a lot longer, seen girls come and go, and been like, maybe I should go for that role, but I don't want to because he's a creep. So I guess I'll just stick at my like subpar desk job. And then she comes in and then swoops in this job, and then suddenly she's her assistant. And it's like, that must be shitty for that girl.
Yeah.
To be like, you just got here. And it's like, I know it sucks that he like sexually harassed her, but like that's not, as you say, giving her any sort of agency in her career.
And the fact that like the person she steals a job from is a person of color as well. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like it is just this thing of like, it's nepotism. It is kind of like, it's just like white privilege like strikes again. And like, even when she goes to the boardroom and she's talking to like the investors and the people like higher up than her, she kind of wins them over by going, hey, there's this guy who's an influencer online who got 1 million hits last week. And they're like acting like, wow, you've just like solved all of our problems. Like, you've got the job, kid. Like, it's like, what the fuck? Like, what are you going on about?
Yeah, it was all very, and she is very like back to her, like, oh well, there's this thing, blah, blah, and I'm like, really, there's a phrase, that, like a Scottish phrase, that she feels very sort of mealy mouthed. That's that kind of like just like a bit woosy, and I just kind of, I'm like, just grow back, woman. You know, just, you know, you're there, you've got the thing. Like, why are you being so, blah, 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 like, spit out. Yeah, it really, I mean, maybe I would enjoy working if I immediately got to have my dream job.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, of course. But like, one of my notes for this film is it feels like it's written like a game of consequences. You know, that game where you fold over paper and each person gets to write another line, because like stuff just happens. Like, and it's like, and all of a sudden this happens. And like because now she's the CEO of the company, and then like, and then it's like the film remembers, oh, we've got to have some like sex in it. So like, it's like, oh, we're gonna celebrate, and they go out for like a nice meal. And around that point in the film as well, I had this kind of realization that's like neither of them have like any friends really. Like, but like
No.
Anna kind of is like that worst kind of person who as soon as they've got like a partner, it's like nobody else exists in their life. And it's like, that is toxic behavior. Do you know what I mean? It's like, all you have is this, like, this guy, which even by the events of this, like, did we establish how long, like, the first film, like, the time period that, like, was over? Because this doesn't feel like it's long after that. It's like they've known each other maybe 3 months.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's like that.
And also, the one time she does turn up, I guess, I mean, maybe all films do this because she's the main character. She's very self-involved. Like, she goes to meet her friends and it still all ends up being about her. And I know her boyfriend's in a plane crash, but it just feels like no matter what's happening, they're like, so what's happening with you guys? She's like, oh, well, she's just always being very coy about everything. And I'm like, just answer the stupid question. Be like, yeah, we're going out again. It seems all right. Well, how about you?
At that point, they're not even just going out. She's moved in as well.
She's moved in.
Oh,
yeah. It's all very fast.
Well, let's get back to some sexy stuff in this film. I've got a clip.
Oh, sexy stuff. Okay.
I've got a clip from when they celebrate Anna's job promotion.
Oh, I think I know this.
Take off your panties. Do it now.
Right in here?
Yeah, right here. Now. Go on.
And like, I think before then she had said like, after that says, let's take this celebration home or something. Or before that she says that, and then that's why she says take off her panties, which leads to a very bizarre scene of him fingering her in a lift to...
Oh, yeah. It's all kind of just a bit... yeah.
What?
Sorry, continue describing the situation.
What really gets me about the... What really?
Do you think he still has the pants in his pocket when he wears the suit next time?
I reckon no. I reckon Mrs. Doyle's found them and has put them in the dry cleaning.
Right.
I reckon. What's weird about that fingering scene in the lift is that it's scored to this. Is
this Danny Elfman again? Oh, yeah. It's like Charlie Brown's Christmas.
It's a marvelous night for a moon.
It is.
Oh, okay.
With the stars up above and
It is Van Morrison who is now a like staunch anti-vaxxer and kind of masker. Who scores this sex? I think this is not a sexy song, is it? Like,
no.
I'll let people listen.
It's quite whimsical. I guess if they were setting up being like, oh, it's going to be a fun sexy. Oh, they're going to have some fun. But I don't think that's really what happens, is it? Like, it's just...
Yeah, I'll let people at home listen to a few seconds of this and go, are you turned on right now?
You're blush. Can I just have one more dance with you? My love.
That is not sexy.
That's like That's like a song you play for the mums and dads to dance to at a wedding.
Yeah.
That's not getting fingered in a lift music. Unless they were trying to think of what music would be played in a lift, like Muzak. Maybe they thought that was where they were going with it.
Yeah. Then you want music. At least that would have like one of the things this film doesn't have that the first one had is some elements of comedy in it. Like not that the first one is like laugh out loud funny, but there are attempts at humor. Whether it is like when Christian says this is my playroom and Anastasia says, "Oh, what you've got an Xbox?" In there. It's at least an attempt at some kind of humor. This
takes itself way too seriously.
It's po-faced as fuck, right? It's kind of like
po-faced.
It is. It's like the whole film is very like, and it again, like the first one, it made me feel like the Belinda Blinks books that are read out on. My dad wrote a porno. Are just as probably good as the 50 Shades of Grey books because they're like, this is just like I think this film's deranged. And I think the moment I got to that, I was watching this film laughing out loud when it got to the point when, Christian has to go to Portland to do some business. And on the way back, like the cocky arsehole he is, decides that he's going to fly his helicopter over a volcano. And then I was like, where are they? Like, and then I remembered, I think I watched, there is a film in that, there is a film. There is a volcano in the Washington area, I think around like Portland.
Right.
But it seemed weird because it looked like there was a jungle surrounding it for one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got very confused. I thought, they're like South America or somewhere. It's like a long way to travel on a helicopter.
But when that helicopter started going down, I was like, this film is fucking deranged. And I was like, oh, I did not see this coming. I'm enjoying this. Like, I was like, because at the time, I think I looked at the time. I was like, oh, there's like half hour, 40 minutes left of the film here. I was like, they are going like, is the kind of cliffhanger going to be? Like, he's just disappeared, and like, do you know what I mean? Like the third one opens and he's still not back or something like that. No, he is back.
Yeah. Immediately, they're like, oh, he's been found, and he's at the door.
Yeah. Here's the clip to prove it.
Christian Grey and his colleague Roz Bailey have been found safe and well, and are at this moment on their way back to Seattle. Sources tell us their helicopter had to make a...
What the hell are y'all doing here?
Christian, Christian.
Like, I'm perplexed. It's like the film goes, here's chances for something exciting and kind of different and take us to a new place, and goes, no, like the thing you care about, we don't, is the relationship between Christian and Anna. And it's like, we don't like put some spice in that. Do you know what I mean? This is very much a korma of a movie. Like, give us a bit of a madras at least.
None of the drama comes from within their relationship at all. At all.
Oh boy. And that, like, because that is preceded by like him probably doing, I think, next to the, I don't know, like ejaculating and saying, will you marry me, is possibly like the second worst proposal ever. Like, kind of half asleep from a nightmare and just going, ugh, will you marry me? Yeah. And it's like, what? Like, this film is supposed to be romantic. Like, no, it's not. Like, that's not, like, I don't know. I'm a single man, so I might not know about romance, but I know that's not romantic.
I don't know. I mean, it's probably, like, again, more realistic as to how most people get engaged. One thing I thought, I was like, oh, here's a window into something. Oh, they're going to do something here. Some character development here. This could be fun. And it gets completely dismissed. Is, I think it's before the whole helicopter thing. After he's, the Layla girls turned up and he's sorted her out. Is that he then submits to Anna. He falls on his knees and is like, I'll submit to you. And I'm like, ooh, he's submitting to her. Great, let's go into that more. And then she's just like, get up. And it's like, no, let's see where this goes. I want to see what you do with this. And then it just ends up being like another chat. Like,
yeah,
that could have been really interesting. He's like, okay, I'll be your servant. What do you want from me? And like, maybe they play that for a while, but they don't. He just gets in a helicopter.
Yeah, because obviously she goes. That's the thing. That's like, I think like one of the red flag. Like when I was like, Anna, get out of there, is when he does that, and then she like goes on a walk for a bit because she's like, fuck this. Well, she thinks fuck this. Returns to Christian's apartment, and he's immediately he's like she's a teenager who's like not told their parents when they're coming back. He's like, where the fuck have you been? I've had people combing the streets looking for you. It's like, fuck off, mate. She's a grown woman. Leave her alone.
Yeah. I've just remembered when they redo the proposal, when he proposes with the actual ring, it is quite romantic. It's like when they go into they go into a swimming pool or something?
Well, it's like this weird room that like, it's low because the floor is glass. So there's like, it must be a swimming pool in the room below or something like that.
Yeah.
So you kind of get the shimmer of the water.
Yeah, and I did remember thinking, and I've got written down, like, that was quite romantic until he says he asked her to be mine. And I'm just like,
yeah, I've
that's
got
like the worst way to ask someone to marry.
Yeah, I think I've got that proposal right here.
Be mine. Share my life with me.
That's nice.
Yes.
Bury me.
Could have shared my life with me. That's quite nice. Be mine. No.
They all just feel like different line readings. Do you know what I mean? Like, which one do I go for? And they've just like left them all in.
Yeah, because he doesn't read any of them differently.
Yeah.
They're all said with the exact same intonation.
Yeah, like they're doing alts. Do you know what I mean? Like, we'll leave the camera running. Jamie, just give us a different couple of line reads of what he could say. And it's like, why would the first one be mine? And like, one of the things I kind of picked up on in this film as well is like, she like texts him at something. It's like, oh, let's not get fucking started on why is a film in 2017 that cost $55 million relying so much on text messages that you have to read on screen. It's like, we're like, the filmmaking should be better than this, right? Yeah, like, but yeah, she says I love you to him, and it feels like, again, there's going to be some tension in their relationship because like it seems like he's not, like, he doesn't say it back, and it feels like it's a thing. And then I think like the next scene, she says to him like I love you, and he kind of like says reluctantly, as it sounds, like this kind of line delivery. He says it back, and it's like, oh, is this a thing or is this not a thing? Like, I don't know what this film, if the film even knows it's trying to make a thing of that, or just like, I don't know.
It's just like, because it's like, is this the first time these two characters are saying I love you? Like, I feel like that should be a little bit more momentous, especially as he's like, I could never be loved. No one could ever love me.
Yeah.
I could never love anyone. Like, it's like, well, you got over that quick.
They don't make enough of that. And like, so let's kind of talk about the plot, and then we'll talk about some things. To kind of wrap up on the plot of this and talk about some things around it. And I wanted to play a clip just because this film is nicely bookended by phone calls from the mum, and we're both fans of the mum on the other end of the phone, Charlie. So let's hear from her again.
Hi.
Anna, sweetheart, where have you been?
I know, I'm sorry. Work has been so crazy.
I hope they're not overworking you.
No, it's going really well. But I was calling because I wanted to talk to you about Christian.
Christian? You've heard from him?
Yeah, we got back together.
Honey, that's wonderful. This time it's going to last. I know it is.
I hope you're right, because he asked me to marry him, and I said yes. Mom?
You're not.
No, I'm not pregnant. I know that we haven't been together very long, but I love him so much. He's the one.
Oh, sweetheart. I'm so happy for you.
You are?
Of course. You've always known your own mind. If that man is the love of your life, you grab him with both hands.
Thanks, Mama.
Have you called Ray?
No, not yet. Christian did, though. He asked for his permission.
He asked for your hand. That's so chivalrous.
Oh, what the? Well, I don't understand their relationship at all. I do not. I like. Because in the first one, aren't they like really pally? And now in this one, it's kind of like she seems worried to tell her, and it's like, if I don't know, why have you not talked to your mum in this 2-week period where you've kind of got back together? Do you know what I mean? Like it feels weird. It feels like her mum would have been calling her, because the last phone call she got, she sounded really down in the dumps and like kind of starting a new job and a bit like, don't know, and it's like, why is the mum not called her and said like, hey, you doing okay? Like, I don't know, why is it now?
And it's like so much has happened, even if it's just like the good stuff where she's like, oh, I'm like acting CEO of the publishing company now or whatever. Like, why wouldn't you have even told her that? Like, why are you... Wait, so is this after the helicopter crash? Surely her mum saw on the news, because apparently it was all over the news.
Yeah.
Surely she'd have been like, hey, sweetie, your ex-boyfriend's helicopter crashed. Are you okay? Like, why have they not talked about any of that?
Yeah, I guess the logic of this film is going, well, in the mum's eyes, they're no longer together, so he's dead to me. Even though she still feels fondly about him. She's the one going like, have you heard from Christian? So you would have thought she would have been straight on the phone to be like, hey, I don't know, maybe it was local news. Maybe they didn't get it in, where was it? The mum, Virginia, I think it's the mum was from. She gets to visit her in the first one. So they have that proposal that comes shortly after that phone call, and then we get the kind of like the post credits scene, right? I guess if this was made by Marvel Studios, this would have been held off to the end of the credits, where we see Jack, the boss, return. What I love about this is the one thing that kind of made me think, oh, that's like some nice like symbology or kind of like connective tissue throughout this, is that he uses a cigarette to burn a hole in Christian's face, and obviously we've seen that it looks like Christian has these cigarette burns all over his body. It's like, oh, Jack's got that intent. Jack's really hates him, even though he kind of feels like you said about mealy mouth. It's like, oh, you're just gonna pick this guy to be like the villain for the third film, right? Is this where we're going for the third film?
An ex-book publisher, like, what's he gonna do to him? Give him a paper cut? I don't know. Like, what? What is this big intent? Like, why does he hate him so much? It's like, you know, so he bought over the company. It's like, but you did get away with doing a lot of stuff. I guess psychos aren't rational people, but like, I still don't buy it. Like, is he really gonna try and kill them? Is that the suggestion?
That I think that is where this film is trying to lead us.
Heading.
Yeah, which feels very like a weird place for it to go.
Yeah.
So as we start to wrap up, one of the things I wanted to say about this film, it's directed by the director of Glengarry Glen Ross, which like is an absolute barnstormer of a film, which kind of has some fantastic performances from Al Pacino and Jack Lemmon, and kind of like,
Love Jack Lemmon's one of my favorite actors in the world.
yeah, one of these like great all-star casts. Has got a couple of people in there that I guess aren't in popular favor anymore, but it's got
Yes.
some people who are absolute legends at what they do, and based on, I think it's a David Mamet play. So,
Yeah.
but it feels like a bit of a fall from grace to go from Glengarry Glen Ross to this, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I mean, with Glengarry Glen Ross, the play is so good, the
Mhm.
text is so good. How much? I mean, I can't really remember the film that much. How much of it we feel is due to the director, and how much of it is due to the already good, script and cast?
Mhm.
It's like, should we really be surprised that this film's like, because it's like dealing with not so great script.
Well,
And,
I think that is the key issue of this film, isn't it? And it's the key issue of the first. It's like, you can only polish a turd so much, and like,
yeah,
from everything I know about the original novels, is they're not well written, and I know that, especially now, so that E.L. James's husband is writing the script for this one. She had very strict stipulations on kind of what you can do, what you can't do with adapting her work. Whether it's like some of
mm,
the dialogue has to be verbatim. So I guess some of it might have been the fact that, I don't know, there are key lines from the book that like fans, do you know what I mean? Readers would like be in the cinema being like, I don't know, like how comic book fans, like when Iron Man says,
yeah.
"I am Iron Man," kind of whoop and cheer. When like, I don't know, when Anastasia says, "What are butt plugs?" Like all the audience go, "Woo! I remember that from the book, baby." Yeah, I don't know.
I
Oh,
just wonder why was James Foley chosen to direct this film? Because the other thing is, is it because Glengarry Glen Ross is all about like businessmen, like high powered, like manipulative businessmen, and that's kind of what Christian Grey is? Like, I feel like that's, you know, this is meant to be a film about a young woman's story and sexual enlightenment. Like, why did they think this guy would be the best to tell that?
the thing I like looking at his IMDb, I could think could be a possible connective thing to like, is the fact that he directed 12 episodes of House of Cards. So I guess like it's just
Right.
like, maybe the studio were looking for like this kind of, yeah, he's kind of got this career after the 90s, like into the later 2000s, kind of just doing a lot of TV stuff. And like,
Mm,
so I guess he just felt like a safe pair of hands. And that's what this film very much feels like,
mm.
even down to John Schwartzman's like cinematography, which like, it just all feels a bit safe, right? It all like,
Yeah, and it's meant to be a film that's meant to be a bit dangerous and
yeah.
naughty and all these, and it's really not that difficult to put more butt shots in. Like,
Hmm.
I just feel he tripped at a very, like, it's such a simple thing. This is meant to be a film that's a little bit naughty for middle-aged, middle-class women. Just show Jamie Dornan's bum a bit more. I
Well,
don't think you see it at all. You see it in the first film. You barely see him with like his shirt off.
hmm
Like,
I've,
without really gets a big square drawn in it. Like,
yeah,
you see so much of Dakota Johnson's nipples. It's like I kind of got bored of seeing her nipples.
yeah. As a red-blooded male, so did
Um
I. I was kind of like, this is like, I could. It felt icky. It felt like this, like, especially
mm,
from the first one, which kind of felt very like equal. Like, do you know what I mean? Like you almost get a glimpse of a shaft in the first one. Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah, he barely takes down his trousers in this one.
mhm, yeah, yeah,
It's and I just and that is my main, and it's a legit criticism of the direction.
yeah.
The directing in this film is there's not enough. But I wonder what was the name of Patty Jenkins? She directed the Wonder Woman film, didn't she?
Hmm.
I wonder what it would have been like in her hands. I wonder what
Yeah.
she would have done with this film. Because like there's full on nudity from the guys in that, and he was like, yeah, fair enough. I
Yeah,
should get more naked.
I'm trying to think of like other interesting directors because there's a film I watched earlier this year, Zola, which originally was supposed to be directed by what's his name? James, real bad guy, friends with Seth Rogen. People are
Oh,
screaming at there.
Franco?
James Franco was supposed to direct that film, and it's directed by this amazing like female director called Javenka Bravo, who like, and I just think like a film like this, as kind of trashy and pulpy as it is, like there's almost an element of Zola, a film that is based on a Twitter thread. It's like there is a trashy story in there, but somebody like putting someone like that hand is like creative with it and stuff like that, and does stuff like that film does a lot with like text messages and stuff like that, but it has the characters kind of like in the way it's done is like the characters are like laying on their bed and you can hear the voiceover of them reading their text messages and stuff like that. So it makes it a bit more, and like, do you know what I mean? And it
dynamic.
Yeah, and it uses
intimate.
like the sounds of a text message to kind of like in the score to kind of like let us know a text message has been sent, and like messes with like ultra bright lights on the faces as people are reading them. Not as like dull as dishwater as this film is with kind of like text messages up on screen, but a female director like that, I just think like
Yeah, exactly. Or the woman who directed Hustlers or something.
Yes.
Like that deals with like sexy content and, you know, women's sexuality and things like that. It's just, and it needed that behind it. Someone like that.
I guess there's even like male directors who could have handled this a lot better than this as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of people.
For sure.
It feels very televisual. I think that's what I was like my kind of closing point on this is it feels very, very, very televisual. So yeah, as we start to wrap up, Charlie, is there anything you feel like we've missed or didn't talk about on this film?
There were a couple of things that I'm just reading my note. I did get, so one thing I have to admit since the last podcast is I did listen to the 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack quite a bit. I did look up some of this. I did download some of the stuff from, because that was a good soundtrack. This soundtrack, not so much. And I did realize I also wrote Moonlight Song, Lift Fingering as well. I did pick up on that.
The music in this sounds like the Black Keys or like remixes of Black Keys songs, and it's like I think Christian Grey is a Black Keys fan.
Yes. Well, one thing that did get like 2004 or 5 Charlie excited is when she runs over to I think it's after she has the fight with her boss, or they go, well, she runs over to Christian's and it's got Jeff Buckley's Lover You Should Have Come Over on playing, and I think like 15-year-old me would have been super happy about that.
I wondered where that was going to go, because there is a horrible Coldplay cover in this film, and it's like, how could Coldplay get any worse? Oh, we'll give it the John Lewis Christmas advert treatment by slowing it down even more.
Yeah.
I think it's the Scientist that's covered. So easy. It's a real like, yeah, we get it. She's sad. Like, we're supposed to feel like the characters are sad. It's like, this song is depressing. As shit as it is. Like, why?
But I was pleased that they did have that one decent song, and I did wonder if it's because it's from the Grace album and they have all these allusions to the fact is one mum is called Grace and the boat's called Grace, and I'm like, oh, is that what you're doing? But it might have been me giving them too much credit.
I was going to say, like, the Danny Elfman score, I think, nails it in this, because he's playing up the melodrama and the kind of like the soapiness of it all. It feels like he's going, oh, I'm now scoring like like a soap opera, so I'll just do that.
Yeah. We hardly see anything in the Red Room, don't we?
Yeah. It's kind of it's alluded to a lot, and it's kind of feels like the ultimate prize in this film.
Yeah. And then when they get there, he fucks her sideways. That's what I've got written down, which I don't remember happening, but that must have been about as exciting as it got. And there's also, is there a shower sex scene?
Yeah,
I've
and
got that
they're
written
fully
down.
clothed. They're fully clothed, which is like seems again practical. Do you know what I mean? Wet clothes aren't sexy to take off as well.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
cumbersome.
Yeah, cumbersome is how a lot of the sex and tension feels in these films. And yeah, I think I would agree with that as a final thing. And I've just got written every now and then so much nipple. But I think that's most of what I remember seeing in the credits, that like one of the fourth people credited is like yacht captain and fire choreographer, which makes the film sound way more exciting than it is. But yeah, I just found it a very boring film.
It is.
Very forgettable, because obviously I've forgotten large parts of it.
Are you excited to cover the third part, or are you kind of dreading ever speaking to me again?
No, I think it will be exciting, because we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it in the Gooch week. We're gonna do it between Christmas and New Year.
No,
Is that right?
this one goes out Gooch week. The final episode will go out on Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
As close to Valentine's Day as we can get it. So
I am looking forward to it.
Do you have any?
I'm looking forward to you finding more long clips of just like intense music for us to listen to while staring at each other via a screen.
I will see how long I can get those clips.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I like to close off these episodes, I like to ask my guests if they managed to find any Coppola connections within this film. So people who worked on it or are in this film that appear elsewhere in a Coppola family's film. Did you find any, Charlie?
Oh, then other than the one we've already identified.
Yes, I can rattle off a few for you. People who appear elsewhere. So Jamie Dornan plays Count Axel Fersen in Marie Antoinette, directed by Sofia Coppola. Eric Johnson, who plays the boss, is in A Simple Favor, which John Schwartzman was also the DOP on. Bruce Altman, who is the guy who basically gives Anastasia the job at the publishing company, plays Nicolas Cage's psychiatrist in Matchstick Men. The Christian Grey's dad, so Eric Arley, plays Rich Man in Big Eyes, the Tim Burton film, which I imagine is a very small part if his name is just Rich Man in the credits.
Rich Man.
And Danny Elfman scored Big Eyes, The Family Man, and Edward Scissorhands. And what's the last one we got here? Editor Richard Francis Bruce edited Ghost Rider and The Rock. So there's some Coppola connections within this film.
Okay, I will make sure I look out for the next one.
No worries. So
I will do my homework.
Let's get to scoring this film, and I do it a bit differently out instead of a 5-star rating on this podcast. Coppola's synonymous now with wine. They love a bit of wine. So what would be your perfect wine pairing for this film? Is this a white wine? Is this a red wine? Is this a sparkling wine? What are you drinking whilst watching 50 Shades of Grey? You did drink wine whilst watching 50 Shades of Grey, right?
I did with this one, which is why I maybe initially thought it was better than the first film, and then why I realised I've forgotten so much of it. What did I drink with this one? I think I would drink a red one. A red one. I'm gonna say it's a Malbec because I'm allergic to Malbec.
That feels like a perfect answer. Yeah, I think this is I don't know. This is one of those bottles of red wine you get that comes in a plastic bottle in like Sainsbury's.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? In the same type of bottle you get olive oil in. It's like wanting to be red wine, but it's cheap and nasty.
Well,
and
see, I would disagree with that because so when I lived in Italy, you do get wine filled up in whatever bottle you have.
We're not talking about Italy here. We're talking about the United Kingdom, where those wines are cheap.
My when I think about wine in bottles like that, I actually assume it's probably going to be quite
yeah.
if I see it in someone's house.
It's going to be for a family vineyard. Yeah,
I'm going to say it's like a really sugary rosé.
Okay.
That makes you feel really ill the next day.
A real headache.
That's yeah.
Perfect.
Not the best.
So is this wine, aka film, a bottom shelf, middle shelf, or top shelf film / wine?
Bottom shelf. Bottom shelf. It's been kicked over by someone's dog and nobody's like come to mop it up in the aisle.
It's got a whoops sticker on it. It's got a yellow sticker to say, oh, it's reduced. It's reduced. Please buy it. We don't want to have it here anymore. Perfect. Yeah.
Indeed.
I totally agree with you. This is a bottom shelf film. And now on to some impossible questions. So, which Coppola member would you keep? But in doing so, you get rid of the filmographies of the entire rest of the family.
I'm gonna be very uncontroversial. I think this isn't a controversial opinion. I'm gonna keep Jason Schwartzman.
Oh, I love it.
And all his films, because I love his wee face and pretty much all the films he's in, and I feel bad for the rest of them.
No,
I maybe would keep Francis Ford Coppola. I don't know, but I don't know. No, I'm keeping Jason.
No, you've got to be selfish with this answer. Yeah. I always ask people to be selfish, because I've had people in the past say, "Oh, for the sake of film, we'll keep Francis Ford Coppola." But Jason Schwartzman. That came up on the last episode as well. There's 2 ticks in the box for Jason Schwartzman, and
really, I can imagine. He looks like a bit of a puppy. You don't want him to be sad.
Yeah,
you don't want him to disappear.
Well, yeah, so. You get every Wes Anderson film basically.
All the Wes Anderson films. Yeah, he does a lot of comedy, and I'm more for the comedy, so I'm gonna keep him.
Perfect. So based on 50 Shades Darker alone, are the Coppolas the greatest film family of all time, Charlie?
On this film alone? No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
They're the worst. They're the worst of all time. And on to the most important question of this podcast, maybe. What does Bill Murray say to Scarlett Johansson at the end of Lost in Translation?
Oh. I think he says, that was nice. That was nice, but I don't know. That was nice, but you'll forget about me. That's what he said.
Maybe he says, "What are butt plugs?"
What are butt plugs? Are you gonna put that in my butt?
That's not going in my butt. It's not for your butt. Yeah.
Oh, I want to change my answer to that. That's more fun.
Maybe his answer is this. There you go.
No, you're not putting those in my butt.
There you go. Amazing, Charlie. Thank you so much again for coming and making some Coppola connections with me. Where can people keep up to date with everything you're doing, whether it's comedy, acting, or all of that kind of jazz? Where's the best place to find you?
Probably on Twitter and Instagram at Charlie Vero-Martin, or my website, charlievero-martin.com.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you so much for this. And I guess me and the listeners will see you again in the new year for the 3rd
and
installment.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, let's get those roses out, guys. Let's tell the people you love that this trilogy is getting finished, and hopefully we will stay sane.
Let's dress up for it. I'm going to dress up.
Oh, masquerade ball. There you go, guys. Yeah, we have to stream that one. Maybe we'll do a full live episode. Masquerade ball. You're all invited. Get ready, guys, for 50 Shades Freed. again, a massive thank you to Charlie for being my buddy in all of this torture that is the 50 Shades franchise. And a massive thank you to all of you guys for listening, not just to this episode, but to every episode, especially this year. It's been a weird year, but this podcast has somewhat been some solace for me, and it feels like a perfect time as we're heading into 2022 to give out some massive thank yous. So, first of all, Liam H. Dempsey. I chat to Liam very frequently, and he's always in my corner when it comes to podcasting. That's really great, and it's introduced me to some amazing people and podcasters. So that's included Matt Brothers, Paul Wilson Morris, and Daryl and Jeanette Bear. Why do I keep saying their name wrong? I said that wrong last week. But yeah, there's a tight little family, and I guess I really, really, really need to thank the Breadcrumbs family, and especially Jonathan Foster. Obviously, Phil and Ariane, I love you two both, but Jonathan was the one who reached out to me and asked me to be a part of the Breadcrumbs Collective, and being a massive fan of the Prince Charles Cinema and the Pod Charles Cinecast, being asked to somewhat be linked to that whole thing and being a part of that collective has really, really gave me a boost in confidence and made me think what I'm doing on this podcast is a good thing. Not that I kind of didn't have that feeling already, but it's kind of that cosign to be like, hey man, we really love what you're doing. It's the similar kind of ethos to what we're doing. Come on board. And that's, I don't know, sometimes listeners saying what you're doing is great is really, really rewarding, and it's nice to get some positive reinforcement from your peers as well. So yeah, a massive thank you to Jonathan and all the guys at the Breadcrumb Collective. So if you would like to give me some praise, if you'd like to tell me how much you love this podcast, you can always reach out, or you just fancy a chat, you can catch me on all the socials. So that is Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd, all at Caged In Pod. Or if you'd like to drop me an email, you can do so on cagedinpod@gmail.com. As for next week on the podcast, obviously we hit a new year. It's 2022, baby. But it is also the month of Nicolas Cage's birth. So the podcast will be taking a little detour to celebrate all things Nicolas Cage and revisiting 4 of his classic movies. And there'll be a special Pigcast interview that will be dropping that month as well, which I'll tell you who it is in due time. But for the first episode of the month, I'll be joined by Nick Helm once again, who joined me way back when at the beginning of the year to talk all about Colour Out of Space. But he comes this time to talk with me about a 1993 underseen Nicolas Cage gem that is Red Rock West. We had a great conversation, and I really think you guys will enjoy it. And if you can, try and find that film. I managed to buy it on Chili. It's a website I'd never heard about before until I had to use it to buy this film. But it's a kind of it's a film that's out of time, and kind of you never see a film like that somewhat again, and it's great. So if you can track that down and watch it, I highly recommend it. So if you enjoyed this episode or any episode of the podcast and would like to support me in any way, that would be great. And the ways you can do that is heading over to ko-fi.com/cagedinpod to buy me a nice little digital cup of coffee that really helps to keep the lights on over here at Caged In Towers, and really helps me to kind of feed the DVD collection I have to amass, or rental costs to watch these films for the podcast, and just keep up with maintenance with stuff like equipment breaks or anything like that. But yeah, you don't need to know all about that. If you want a kind of long-term commitment, you want to take it to the next level and support me on a monthly basis, that would be amazing. And you can do so over at patreon.com/cagedinpod, where from January you will be getting some real gold. You'll be getting the brand new sister podcast to this, Movie Brat Bros, where we're looking at the career in season 1 of Brian De Palma and looking at how his films match up against Francis Ford Coppola's from that time. So the first film we'll be looking at is Mission Impossible. That film came out in 1996. So we'll be going, hey, who had a better year? Brian De Palma or Francis Ford Coppola? If you do a quick Google, you may know the answer pretty quickly. And then the second film we will be talking about in that month is Phantom of the Paradise, which I'm joined by Daryl and Jeanette Bear. And it's a great episode. The Mission Impossible one is with Nathaniel Metcalf, and you'll be able to access those for as little as £2.50 or $3 a month. So head on over to patreon.com/cagedinpod. However, if you don't want to give me any of your money, which is fine, I don't mind that at all, but would still like to support this podcast, you can head on over to Apple Podcasts, Acast, Spotify, Podchaser, wherever you listen to podcasts, and give me a shining 5-star rating and a glowing review. Tell me what is your answer to some of these questions. Like, what's your favourite Coppola? Who would you keep out of the family? What does Bill Murray say to Scarlett Johansson at the end of Lost in Translation? I'd love to see your answers in your reviews. So head on over there and do all of that good stuff. So, as ever, I have been your guide through the crazy world of the Coppola family tree. And remember that you don't need to find real love in the world. All you need to find is a partner who has lots of money and can solve all your problems by just clicking his fingers and abusing his power to get you exactly what you want. Anyway, enough of that. I'll catch you next year, guys. Thank you once again. I love you all. Bye-bye.